Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday and happy draft day in the National Hockey League. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. I'm Andrew Paterson, along with his CTO, Michael Remis, and we got a great show for you with all the latest news from around the National Hockey League. We will get ready for tonight's round one with Scott Wheeler of The Athletic, and we'll talk Jets and maybe hit a little Bombers, too, with Ted Wyman of the Winnipeg Sun a little later on. And as promised yesterday, maybe it was on Wednesday, I can't remember, we were fired up to get to 5,000 subs on YouTube, so we will be doing a famous Winnipeg Sports Talk marble race at the end of the show. So make sure, if you're with us on YouTube, stick around to the end. We've got a GC from Boston Pizza, a couple of cakes from Nick and Nikki DQ, so should be a great way to get into the weekend right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. As always, got to thank our sponsors, Royal Sports, Nick and Nikki DQ, Boston Pizza, Not Autocorp, Little Brown Jug Brewing, Breezy Bend Country Club, Assiniboia Downs, Aikens Lake, and Cool Bet Canada. Let's get Michael Remis in here and fire up. Remo, right off the bat, we have a trade to announce.
Yeah, we're going to be hearing that tonight from Bettman. We have a trade to announce. I guess it's like a virtual draft this year, but we actually do have a trade to announce to start the show. So the NHL being really smart with their times this week, having the expansion draft like Wednesday afternoon instead of the evening. And then yesterday, the Jets having the 2:30 press conference. And it feels like we do have a trade. Kevin Weeks reporting, and I think Friedman confirmed it. Who was it? Rasmus Ristolainen, who the Jets were rumored to be in on, going not to the Jets or Montreal, but to Philadelphia, who for Robert Hagg and I think some draft picks. And I find this interesting because yesterday, the Flyers traded away Shane Gostisbehere to Arizona. Shane Gostisbehere, a second and a seventh to Arizona to get rid of his salary. And then you're getting Rasmus Ristolainen back from Buffalo. And you're trading away picks to get him as well and Robert Hagg. So you basically just traded Gostisbehere, 2 picks, some other picks, plus Robert Hagg to get Rasmus Ristolainen. And I don't know if he's that much of an upgrade from what they had. So I find it interesting asset management. We'll see if it works out. He's 1 year, 5.5. So they were clearly done with Gostisbehere, but I find it curious when you put the trade like that. When you phrase it the way I did, it seems like a lot to give up for this guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, they got no return in the Gostisbehere trade, had to give up assets to get him off the books. And, they bring in Ristolainen. I mean, I know people, especially in this chat, it's funny, everyone says, we need defense, we need defensemen, and then the defensemen that are out there, don't get that guy, he sucks. Listen, I know his numbers were terrible. I mean, everyone's numbers on Buffalo were bad. His were exceptionally bad. But I'll be honest, playing top-line minutes on an undermanned team, going up against the top competition every night, your numbers are going to stink. He's going to be in a contract year. I don't think he'll be as bad as he was with Buffalo. But again, the bottom line for us here in the Peg on Winnipeg Sports Talk is that was a player that, a number of teams, but the Winnipeg Jets absolutely were rumored to be kicking tires on Ristolainen. And it's another domino that's fallen before we get to the first pick of the draft tonight. Riemann, I got to tell you, with the way Philly's been trading picks, I'm not sure whether we should assume that this will be the case with many other teams, but I'll be very interested to see how many picks are traded tonight. And for instance, a team like Winnipeg that, has obvious needs on the blue line and in the present has just lost Mason Appleton, is the Jets' first round pick in play tonight? Like, how many? The Jets have 3 or 4 picks. 1, 2, 3, and 5. How many of those do they make? Do they move any of them? And if they're doing that, is that for, a player that can come and, plug right into at least your top 6 on the blue line? And to me, Remo, that's the intrigue when it comes around the Winnipeg Jets tonight. I mean, certainly if they make their selections, we'll talk about who they pick. But I do think there's the potential that we could see maybe some more picks being traded. And, I think there's a lot of teams that realize that this draft is far more of a crapshoot than normal. And for a team like Winnipeg that, has done such great scouting in the past, I think if they realize that they're far less sure about their selections for this year's draft, I think that might make them more likely potentially dangle a pick or two if they're looking to try to solve a problem that has not yet to be solved.
Yeah, here's the trade from Kevin Weeks. First round pick tonight, that's 13th overall, and a second round in 2023 for Rasmus Ristolainen. And I'm not an NHL GM, but
hold on a sec. Say that again.
First round pick tonight.
What?
13th overall. Buffalo
got a first rounder for Ristolainen?
And a second round pick in 2023. And Robert Hagg. That is a lot for a rental player. So I think Philadelphia paid less for Ryan Ellis than Ristolainen. And I know if you were hoping the Jets were in on that's
Listen,
a lot.
I just spent a couple minutes saying, hey, Ristolainen, probably won't be as bad as he was last year in Buffalo and whatnot. But I am stunned that they got a first rounder. In fact, I was looking at a couple of the guys that follow Buffalo, like the beat writers.
Oh,
and
Joe
one
Yurden.
of the guys. One of the guys said something like, if was it Joe that said, if the Sabres get a first rounder for Ristolainen, I will, and I can't remember what it was, but do something ridiculous because they might have to do that.
He said, this would replace the Paul Gostad trade for a first as the most unbelievable trade pulled off by Buffalo. So that is the reaction in Buffalo for this trade. I don't know what Philly's doing. They just traded away 4 picks and Robert Hagg and Gostisbehere for 1 year of Rasmus Ristolainen at $5.5 million. That doesn't make any sense. How much of an upgrade could he possibly be? I don't think it is. So, and that's why. This is why, you and I sit here and think we could be NHL GMs. Like, you see the trade, the Ned trade yesterday. You see,
I could be a bad GM. I mean, I could certainly be a bad GM.
Sorry, how much? Not that you could be a good. How much worse could you be than that in terms of asset management? I don't know. And so the Jets probably looked at that and was like, we're not giving up a first round pick for this guy, let alone a first. That's 13th overall
and a second and a player.
So
you know what? Kevin Adams stock just rose. I'm speechless. I honest to God, I'm speechless at that. And you know what? Thank you again for the stuff breaking just as we go on the air, because this is the live reaction when we heard. When they said a couple picks, I was thinking like a 6th, a 7th, or maybe they gave a 7th and got back a 5th.
Yeah.
Wow.
People in chat are saying we should call Ruicki right now to see what he says. Should I text him?
Yeah, text him for comment on the text him for comment. It will be fun. And hey, I just got it. Well, Remis does that. I will let you all know that if I sound a little weird today, I'm playing hurt, but I'm here. My mouth is frozen right now on the right side. Upstairs, had a very bad tooth issue, went in this morning. I have a procedure planned for 3 p.m. this afternoon, but they shot me up enough that I could get here onto Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily and do that. Commitment to the grind and to the game, and to all of you listeners, Rima. I feel like it's that, that game 7 of the Cup final. Your team needs you, and you know what? You just got to take that shot and get back out on the field.
Yeah, be careful. I watched Rick Westhead's feature last year on painkillers like Toradol, so I don't want you to be doing anything too crazy.
No, I'm not popping pills or anything like that. They just gave me the shot administered by a dental professional, and I'll go in and get it done, and hopefully then I'll be feeling great. Although I will say, for all the great things that come with, kind of running your own business and being on your own, the one thing that I had not thought of or been had to face was the fact that, man, I missed that health insurance. So I'm going to be getting a big bill. I'm going to have to. We may need a dental sponsor at some point, Reem, on this program for our grills going forward. Either that or figure out some way to get it taken care of. But whatever, we'll get it done. Well, lots to talk about, and obviously we're going to have some great guests. So maybe I won't do as much talking as normal.
Okay, I texted Brandon. I said, care to comment on the Risto trade? He responds, what a fucking disaster.
Oh wow! I listen. I'm stunned. We knew that Ristolainen was going to be traded, but I mean, if you had told me, if we on this show yesterday, Remis said, okay, let's set a line on will Buffalo get a first round pick for Ristolainen, I would have put that at definitely plus money, maybe like plus 200, and certainly that was the reports on everyone out of Buffalo. So to not only get that, but to get a player and a second rounder. Listen, Kevin Adams. I don't know. I'm completely turning around on Kevin Adams. Listen, if he gets that for Rasmus Ristolainen, Remis, what the hell is he asking for Jack Eichel?
I know. And Dreger just tweeted out, so teams that were offering first-round picks were informed earlier the pick wasn't high enough. They were looking for picks in the top 20, so Philly offering number 13 pick. Which is actually the number 12 pick, Huss, because there's no pick 11. Remember that.
Forfeit is going at 11. Yeah. That's the one thing you can take to the bank tonight.
No return getting. He's been involved in a lot of deals. He'll be picked tonight at 11. Yes. Insane that trade. So and Rob Hagg. He's got 1 year with a 1.6 cap hit. I think he was like decent. Was he? He was like fine for like a bottom pair D. So. I don't know what Philly's doing. They got Ryan Ellis, and now they have Ristolainen, and maybe it'll be better for them. They didn't get rid of any of their...
Listen, just the fact, and who knows? I mean, maybe the fact that, and I guess we have to deduce this. I mean, we're kind of joking, but I mean, Kevin Adams got a pretty nice ransom for Ristolainen. The only reason I can think that happened was that he really did have serious suitors, like the Winnipeg Jets, like the Montreal Canadiens. So, I mean, good for him. If you're a Flyer fan, like Rewicki is, you're probably not too fired up with the price that was paid tonight. It's going to make the draft a lot more anticlimactic, knowing that you don't have your pick, and you've got 1 year Rasmus Ristolainen to see what happens going forward. But that certainly, I mean, hopefully that'll be the first of many deals today. A couple of the things that are happening in the National Hockey League, and this had been a long time coming, Remo, but... Frank the Tank reporting earlier this morning that Tony DeAngelo finally being bought out by the New York Rangers. He will be an unrestricted free agent. This is a guy that just has so much baggage around him as a teammate, as a person, everything other than what he does on the ice. I'm going to be fascinated to see what team, if any, but there probably will be one, that gives him a chance to come in and sort of reestablish his spot in the National Hockey League. And, you know, if he has learned anything about the last couple of years and why he, ended up in this situation in the first place.
Yeah, you mean Frank didn't just like tweet out the whole first round this aftoon? I was fully.
Well, I am interested to see if he goes full Woj tonight. I mean, if you recall, anyone that loves, I love drafts, so I pretty much watch them all. NBA draft, I want to say 2-3 years ago, was essentially Woj tweeting 4 to 5 minutes before every single pick, the pick. And it would be something like, wouldn't be surprised to see this guy go here. Like, without saying this is happening, but he obviously knew it was happening, was right on every one. And then the same sort of bitching that we heard from a lot of people about the NHL draft. We heard about that. And then ESPN went and, just hired him over. Hey, Andrew Haleko, $10 on the super chat. First contribution to the Hustler Dentist Fund. Thank you very much, Andrew. We greatly appreciate it. I'll be fine. We'll get that done. Get this damn tooth taken care of, and hopefully have a great weekend. I'll be in prime 1919 consumption shape by who knows, maybe even later on tonight. Hey, shout out to Nick. DQ Nick's in the house as well. Great to see you, my friend. Nick actually made a little drop off today, Reem. Something good for messed up teeth is DQ, in case you didn't know. And of course, we've got a couple of cakes for our contest, the marble race at the end of the program. So big shout out to him. And he said he will look forward to making a drop off to you coming up at some point next week. Yeah,
it's my son's birthday coming up. I messaged him.
Whoa!
I wanted a DQ cake for our party, and I asked him
He's
to do...
He's going to be 2?
Yeah, he's going to be 2.
That's incredible.
So,
oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I asked him, I said, can you make a cake featuring one of his favorite YouTube cartoons? And I sent him a picture, and he's like, I think we can make that work. So I'm looking forward to seeing
I know who his favorite YouTuber is.
Yeah, Hustler and Dada.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dad as well.
Hustler and Dada.
Mitch Jensen, 1001. May as well make it a gold tooth. It's funny that you bring that up because this has been bugging me. And at a certain point, the wrench dues are contribution to get us a gold tooth fund. I should get a nice grill, maybe with Huss right there.
You could be like Joe Pesci in Home Alone. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Actually, I do remember that, but I don't remember if he got a grill after he got his face implanted by Macaulay Culkin or what?
He had like a gold tooth or something. I don't know in the movie, and it was like always like shimmering Joe Pesci's gold tooth in Home Alone.
When I think of gold teeth and grills and Winnipeg sports, 2 individuals come to mind. Number 1, KD Williams of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You recall KD had the gold fronts with and I think he had diamonds in them, or at one point he might have got KD in it. But the guy that absolutely did, anyone that remembers, this is old school Winnipeg hoops, Winnipeg Thunder, Winnipeg Arena era. JJ Eubanks of the Thunder was the boss on the team. And he had 2 massive gold teeth, and he had a J on one and a J on the other. And it was absolutely incredible. Holy smokes, everyone. Listen, I was just kind of making fun of the fact that I might sound a little different, but I really appreciate this. Rain Man is in on the Gold Tooth Fund. Rob Mahoney is in on the Gold Tooth Fund. Philip Barclay is in on the Gold Tooth Fund. I might actually have to get a grill at some point, Rain, to rock on the program. And I'll be honest, I've thought about it many times before. Wasn't sure whether I could pull it off, but with this sort of support from the community, I may have to go for it.
You're gonna have to. There's Jet Oil Tom.
Thank you guys. This is awesome.
This is insane. But we want to get to some actual hockey news before Scott Wheeler comes in. I was reading this yesterday from Elliot Friedman, and he had a quote from an NHL GM, Huss. I don't know if you saw this about the defense market. And he was saying how a lot of NHL players don't want to come to Canada because of the taxes, the pandemic restrictions, social media. I don't know where you stand on that. But one of the players who was open to Canada, who could be a target for the Jets, maybe he was at the trade deadline, they lost out to Tampa, but Stanley Cup champion, David Savard. I don't know where you land on Elliot's reporting there. I did send you that comment.
I'm in. Listen, I am in on David Savard. I mean, if the Winnipeg Jets could take a shot at him, I mean, that's a guy that, solid defenseman, plays the right side, just won a cup with Tampa. Who knows what the cost is and how long. But I mean, listen, if we're talking about available defensemen right now, certainly on the UFA market, after Larson went to Seattle and Alexiak went to Seattle and now Ristolainen, and I know some people don't like the idea at all of Ristolainen. Well, you don't have to worry about it because Philly somehow just traded Robert Hagg a first and a second for Rasmus Ristolainen. David Savard would certainly be a guy that I think we would love to see. Now, again, Dougie Hamilton, of course, is out there, whether Winnipeg is even considered or if they step up, and because that's going to cost a lot of money as well. So I don't know. It's all really interesting. We'll see. And who knows, by the time we get through our draft chat with Scott Wheeler, there might be some more deals to talk about. We'll focus in on the Winnipeg Jets a little bit later on with Ted Wyman. And Remo, the one other thing that we'll do either before or after Ted, before we do the marble race with our giveaway at the end of the program, is go through the Jets schedule as well, which got dropped late last night. Kind of crazy. The team starts October with 2 California road trips. They start in Anaheim. They come back for like one game, I think the Ducks, and then are right back in California again. So it is a little weird. We'll talk about a few of the big road games that some of you might want to travel to, and we'll get to all that in just a minute. All right, Scott Wheeler coming up. Before we do that, do want to thank our friends. Well, I'll start with Nick and Nikki DQ. I mentioned Nick made a little drop-off earlier today, a couple of the treats of pizzas, as well as the, listen, we got... I think Buster bars, Blizzard bars, sandwiches, fudge bars, I'm pretty much stocked for a while, and that's good with a busted tooth. Nick and Nicky DQ, Niverville, Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. They're the best. And the Ultimate Grill Burger he dropped off today was absolutely elite. I'm telling you, the most underrated burger in the fast food game. Pop by Nick and Nicky this weekend. Blizzards, food, and of course, if you got a party or you're heading to one, be the hero. Grab a cake. You can order them online at DQ Manitoba. Big shout out to Royal Sports. Who knows who the Jets are going to be picking tonight, but if you want to be the first one to get your jersey done up, you can pop by there tomorrow. Incredible selection of all Winnipeg Jet merchandise, Bomber merchandise for the upcoming season, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, soccer from around the world, not to mention hockey, soccer, baseball, bikes, fitness, disc golf, and so much more on the King Skate Snow and Surf side. All over at Royal Sports, 650 Rally EK and 750 Pembina Highway. And if you're getting together with friends on the weekend, why don't you welcome yourself back to Boston Pizza? All local BPs are featuring the new summer menu and welcoming people back with the honey dill fried chicken sandwich, the burger Italiano, and summer cocktails for the patio, including the Bulldog Margarita Fish Bowl, the White Sangria Smash, the Peachy Mojito Royale, and the Galaxy Fish Bowl. Pick it up this weekend at your local Boston Pizza. All right. Round one tonight of the draft. Maybe one of the more, shall we say, unpredictable drafts we've had in a long time for obvious reasons. Who better to get ready to hear the picks tonight than with Scott Wheeler of The Athletic, who joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Scott, what's going on? Thanks so much for doing this. I know it's a very busy day for you. We appreciate you making some time for us here in the Peg. Reem, I can't hear him.
We can't hear you, Scott.
Oh, you might be muted.
It could be his microphone.
See if you can check that, Reem, or maybe you can do that on the other side. Either that, or maybe it's just a thing where you need to pop out and pop back in.
Yeah. Maybe get out and pop back in.
Yeah. Try that, Scott. Just close the window and pop back in, and we should be okay. We'll get Scott. Scott's got a couple of great pieces. I mean, if you are an Athletic subscriber, and I certainly suggest that you are, Scott's got a couple great pieces. A full column on just thoughts heading into the draft, his top 100 prospects, and of course he and Corey Pronman doing a ton of great work as well. Getting set up for the draft. So Scott will just pop back in just a second. We'll get him going. Draft starts tonight, 7 p.m. You can see it on Sportsnet. I do know, Billy, I'm not exactly sure what time the IC guys are going on, probably in and around 7 p.m. So they'll be on, probably focusing more so on the Jets side of things. But obviously, and I've had such a fun time. Ezzy and I did one of the draft shows, the draft year. It was in Chicago. And so anyways, Ez will be fun. Dave will be on with Drew. Those guys will be on there. Scott, can you hear us okay now? And can we hear you?
I'm good to go.
Perfect. Thanks so much for doing this. I was just saying, I know how busy of a day it is for you, but in some ways, this is probably fun because a long, very difficult year of work is all in the books, and now you, like everyone else, sit back and sees what happens tonight.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, this is probably the quietest day of the year that I've had in several months. I mean, today it's just sort of sitting back and waiting for 8 p.m. and all of my homework has been done, the calls, the video, all of that's finished. So now it's just sort of waiting to see how it unfolds and then breaking it all down. So I honestly got up this morning and I've just been kind of taking it easy here.
Well, it's great. Well, thanks again for coming on. We've been talking draft with a couple other folks this week, and I kind of always start with asking this question because I'm interested in everyone's perspective on it. Just how weird of a year this is from a scouting perspective. And, when you think of your list, I'm sure you've taken a look at others and thinking about NHL teams' list. I mean, how different are everyone's opinions and lists going to be just because of the lack of information on a lot of players?
There's definitely going to be a lot of variance. I don't think it's going to be as maybe crazy or sort of wild west as people expect it to be. Other than the OHL, really every league played some kind of a reasonable schedule. It maybe wasn't the 50, 60 games that those kids are used to playing, but it was still a 20, 30 game schedule. And really in Finland and in the United States and in Russia, they played full schedule. So the Swedish kids, for sure, their junior league got canceled early. And a lot of them ended up playing in kind of third tier pro league over there, which made it hard to scout those Swedish kids. And then obviously we know the story in Canada, where outside of the QMJHL, it was a pretty rough go and a pretty small schedule for the WHL. And then virtually nothing for any of the OHL kids unless they either went over to Europe or unless they sort of found something, whether it was U18 Worlds or some other way to showcase themselves. So it's been difficult. I didn't have my usual sort of travel schedule, if you will. During the regular season, I'm on the road almost year round watching these kids play. This year, I went to Edmonton for the World Juniors, and that was it. So that part of it's different. It's a lot more video. It's a lot more time spent on the phone talking with these kids as coaches and scouts and other general managers of these sort of junior and college and pro teams, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a weird process, but I'm actually pretty happy. And I think NHL clubs are too with where I'm at now. And we've had enough time to watch these kids. And I would say really outside of a handful of good OHL players that will likely be selected in the mid rounds who we have hardly seen play, it did end up looking more like a hockey season than I expected it would 8-9 months ago.
Scott, often we'll be talking about, players in the third and fourth and fifth rounds that are selected that are kind of sleepers. And often they're a Kazakh, they're a Russian playing in a lower league. They're, not from North America. And we talk with the guys. Might some of the sleepers actually be like OHL kids that didn't play last year that, really have sort of been out of sight, out of mind for many scouts over the last 12 months?
Most definitely. I did a sort of survey, a scout survey a couple of weeks ago that really released earlier this week, finally, that asked them that question, asked sort of who are the kids that are going to fly under the radar, whether it's a kid in your region or just a kid in this draft that you think is going to sort of sneak under the radar. And a lot of the answers were OHL kids and OHL kids that didn't play a single game. I heard names like Connor Lockhart and Ty Voigt and Ryan Mast and Bryce Montgomery, kids who haven't played since their 16-year-old season in any consequential hockey games. And on the flip side, I almost wonder whether everybody's thinking that. Everybody's thinking that they can go out and get the OHL kid who hasn't played since he was 16 years old. And then maybe it's the sort of Alexander Barkov is underrated kind of narrative. It's the sort of, if everybody thinks that this is an inefficiency that they can tap into, then maybe it isn't actually an inefficiency. But it's the teams that do their homework on those kids are going to either get it right or get it really wrong. And I expect that 5-10 years from now, we'll look back on the OHL kids that didn't play and there will be some big hits, some kids who weren't taken in the first round who go on to become players. And I suspect you're also going to see a lot of misses on kids who teams were making a bargain on or some kind of gamble on, if you will, when they hadn't seen them play in a year and a half and they hadn't developed like they might have thought they did. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, in particular for those OHL kids and to a lesser extent the WHL kids as well, who in many cases only played 5-10 games.
Scott Wheeler of The Athletic getting us ready for round one tonight of the NHL draft. Scott, overall, based on what we know, how would you categorize the overall talent in this draft? Is it strong, weak, average? I mean, how would you assess that?
I would say it's slightly below average. It's not a great draft, but I think it's actually also been a little miscast. The feel around this draft is that the combination of the talent level of the players and of the lack of scouting that has taken place is that it's a really weak draft. I don't think it's that weak. Certainly when you look back at the last decade, I would say that 2012 was obviously worse. 2012 is one of the worst drafts we've had in modern history. And then it kind of fits into that next group with the 2017s of the last sort of decade, if you will. So it's certainly not 2015. It's not 2016 where we had Austin Matthews and we had Connor McDavid and we had Mitch Marner and Mikko Rantanen, and you go down the list. It's not the level of those. Those were very strong drafts. But there's still some talent. I like 12 players at the top a lot. And that group is normally about 9 or 10 for most other kids. So there's actually a couple of kids that I'm higher on than most. And then deeper into the draft, I think you've got about 45 really, really good prospects. And again, that number is slightly smaller than what I typically like in a draft. I normally like 50 or 60 kids. But that's still 45 quality NHL prospects. And I think the teams that can tap into those kids and the teams that don't necessarily view this as a weak draft and have still gone out and acquired draft capital could really take advantage of a bit of an inefficiency there.
Scott, it's interesting that you just mentioned kind of a top 12. We won't spend much time on Owen Power. We've talked a lot about him this week, and he pretty much talking to almost everybody is the consensus number one.
Yeah.
But we've sort of heard that, after that, there's a tier of like 8 players. So for you, the tier sounds like it's a little bit bigger than 8. There's a few others that maybe you have in that group that, maybe some others don't.
Yeah, so there's absolutely that consensus top 9 with Owen Power plus 8. I would add really 3 names to that list. I would add Jesper Wallstedt to that list, the goalie, who I think is a real threat to go inside the top 10 and really shake up that top 9, which is comprised of 5 forwards and 4 defensemen. And then I like 2 other forwards on top of Wallstedt by the names of Chaz Lucius and Cole Sillinger. And obviously, everybody knows the Sillinger name. It's a hockey name that has lingered for a long time. But the Lucius name is one that's coming. His younger brother is a top prospect in next year's draft. I think he's better than his younger brother, but his younger brother, Cruz, could also be a first-round pick in next year's draft. And I think Chaz is, for my money, arguably the top goal scorer in this draft. I think he's got a real chance to score 35 to 40 goals, and there's only 1 or 2 other players in this draft that I would feel comfortable sort of projecting as a true goal scorer at the next level. So Chaz has this way of finding space and this way of getting his shot off and this way of picking his spots in the net with his accuracy. He doesn't have this really heavy shot that we see in a lot of these kids now, which a Cole Sillinger and a Mason McTavish have. But he's a kid who can really score goals. And I suspect that after a year or 2 at the University of Minnesota, that Lucius is going to emerge from college as one of the top prospects outside the NHL. And as a result, I think he kind of belongs at the back end of that group of 9 or 10 other kids, sort of in that same conversation, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Lucius. I think he could go at 10 to Ottawa. They are looking for goal scorers after having drafted a lot of really well-rounded forward prospects over the last couple of years, like Josh Norris and Shane Pinto, et cetera. So I think he could go there, but if not, I don't think he'll last much longer with Philadelphia and Calgary sort of following those picks. And Calgary in particular is also looking for a goal-scoring winger in this draft. So it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up with those other names that I mentioned, but I think all of them belong in that same conversation as that consensus 9 that you talked about.
Hey, great to see everyone with this in the YouTube chat. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, and a big thanks to Owen, Stonewall Dave, as well as who's the last one in there? Cody Caron for their donations to the Gold Tooth Fund. Much appreciated. Scott, back to the top of the draft. It was quite interesting looking at your top 100. Again, folks, before the picks are made tonight, go to The Athletic. Scott's got his top 100 thoughts going into the draft. Some great content. I was surprised to see Kent Johnson out of the University of Michigan. Pretty flashy player, but a guy that in most of the other lists I'd seen was not, I'm not even sure if I saw him often in the top 5. Certainly was part of that group of the top 9. Why is he number 2 on your list, and what makes him stand above the others?
Yeah, Kent's interesting because I fully expect he's going to go in that 6 to 9 half of that group, if you will. But he belongs right at the top of the draft in terms of those 5 forwards for me. And that isn't to say that I'm extremely confident that he's going to be a better player long term than a William Eklund or a Dylan Gunther or a Mason McTavish. I mean, you go down the list. All of those kids are pretty darn good. Obviously, Matt Beniers, I fully expect, is going to be the first forward taken. I think he'll probably go to Seattle at number 2. But I really like Kent. With the puck on his stick, it's one thing. I mean, he's got the obvious flair to his game, that really sort of wow you factor, where a couple of plays every game that he'll make are sort of that highlight reel quality and pull you out of your seat. And I actually think people can fall prey to focusing a little bit too much on that kind of quality in prospects. So maybe I've been a culprit there this year, if you will. But his ability to really play at the top of the lineup, I expect that when he makes it, it's only going to be as a top 6 power play guy who can play with other talented players. So his ability to play in that kind of a role and make an impact in that kind of a role is pretty unique. And then it's not just about the hands. We always talk about the hands, but he's also a fabulous playmaker who does a really good job getting pucks from the perimeter and placing them into the middle of the ice for his teammates to pounce on. He's an underrated finisher around the net and around the slot. And the big question mark with Kent is, okay, he's a little bit of a skinny kid and kind of reminds of Elias Paterson at the same age of a couple of years ago, where Elias came in and he just looked like he hadn't really been in the gym. And Kent's the same way. He's never going to be a big, strong guy, and as a result, probably never going to be a great two-way forward. But I think his offensive ability is really going to pop. And I do expect that he'll add some muscle and that he'll be a little bit stronger once he gets to his NHL playing weight, and that is going to be less of an issue because of his skill level and because of his talent. So I'm just a big, big fan of Kent. I think he belongs right at the top with Beniers and Eklund in terms of the top forwards in this draft. And I would still strongly consider taking those other two kids ahead of him. But for me, I just gave him the slight edge over the course of this season on the basis of his skill and on the talent level that he brings to the table, and ultimately the kind of role that projects into, where it's not hard to imagine him as a first-line winger who plays on your top power play unit.
Well, and we all know that, that center position seems to be so important. And, Kent Johnson is there. Beniers is the guy we certainly see tabbed at number 2. What's he going to bring to the Kraken, assuming that he is? And just while we're on the Kraken, what'd you think of the selections and what did and what didn't happen, including all those drafts? They've got tons of cap space. It really is intriguing as to how they might use that in around this draft and next week, Scott.
Yeah, definitely. I think everybody saw the list of unprotected players and just assumed that Vladimir Tarasenko and Max Domi and those kinds of names were going to be among the selections. But I actually like the way that they went about it. Obviously, not having arranged side deals like Vegas did is a little bit disappointing for them. They were in a position of leverage and clearly didn't manage to use that leverage like they probably hoped they could. But I think beyond that, if you're just focusing on the picks that they made, that there were some sleuth picks there. And for my work in terms of the prospects world and some of the younger players, I mean, I think Vince Dunn is a fabulous defender who they obviously took over taking Tarasenko. And I'm a really big fan of Fleury and the sort of potential that he has to be a top 6 sort of everyday, really good NHL defenseman. So I think there were some nice pieces there. I really like the sort of defense in particular. Obviously, Drager is going to be the X factor in terms of their success right out of the gate. But I think whether or not they're successful next year, whether or not Drager can be their starter, I do think that they're extremely well positioned for the next couple of years to be able to capitalize on their cap space, add some big free agents, acquire salary, and really sort of build it up. And that starts tonight with the draft and with that second pick, which I don't think it's a guarantee that it's Matt Beniers, but I suspect that Matt Beniers is probably the most likely choice for them.
Do you think more teams, because of the uncertainty of the draft list and the challenges they've had, do you think teams will be more likely or more willing to trade a first-round pick this year than they may have been in the past, Scott?
Yes and no. I think there is a perceived value on both ends of that kind of a transaction, whether it's dealing away a first-round pick or acquiring a first-round pick. I think the perception is this year that because it's a weaker draft, that pick has less value. I actually tend to think that the inverse approach is probably going to be the better approach. I think teams that actually use the so-called lower value in this draft to their advantage by acquiring a lot of picks in this draft will actually end up winning out, because you're going to pay a premium in the next 2 years for draft picks. The 2022 and 2023 class in particular are really, really strong. 2023 is looking special. So those two drafts, if you're going to pay a premium then versus now, I think there may even be some kind of a market inefficiency there to say, if everybody else thinks that this draft is weak, then maybe this is the exact kind of a draft that we should be acquiring draft capital. And if we get 10 picks and 3 of them become NHL players, then we've done a good job, right? So I do think that's a worthwhile approach for them to take in terms of acquiring talent this year. And then on top of that, there are teams that have multiple picks. So I think that's an added flair, right? The New Jersey Devils have 2 firsts. The Columbus Blue Jackets have 3 firsts. The Minnesota Wild have 2 firsts. So I think there's always an inkling, whether rightly or wrongly. I think often wrongly. I think most often you should just keep those picks and draft them. But teams always feel like when they have an excess of something that they're more comfortable getting rid of it. So I think you could see one of those three teams in particular, New Jersey, Columbus, the third team that I mentioned is slipping my mind here, but I think, Minnesota. You could see one of those teams move one of those picks or package two of those picks to move up or that kind of a thing. So I do think we're going to see some movement tonight.
One of the other things that we talked about, specifically in relation to the Jets, they're picking middle of the round, I guess 17th, technically the 18th pick, but we know that forfeit is going at 11. They've only got 4 picks in the draft, a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 5.
Yeah.
And the Jets have always been a very good drafting team, and they will stick to their list. I mean, if they're coming up to that point and they have 3 or 4 players that you would think that, have great value at that spot, do you think it would be likely that teams like that would maybe be looking to potentially trade down to grab a couple more picks to essentially have more shots at it, knowing that, even if you move down from 18 to 26 or even early in the second round and get another pick, some of the guys that you're interested in that you could pick at 18 might be there at that point?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Jets are a good case study in that in terms of how things might play out, if only because I suspect that they'd like to draft a defenseman just after taking Cole Perfetti last year, and with the way that their group in terms of their prospect pool is now shaping up on defense outside of Ville Heinola, it's looking pretty thin. So I think they may feel some kind of urge to draft a defenseman this year. And if that's the case, I think that despite the fact that there's 4 defensemen that are going to go in the top 10 and probably 6 in the top 20, there really aren't going to be great D there. And it's going to be a forward-heavy sort of forward-heavy set of options in terms of what's available to them in the late teens and to all the other teams in the late teens or early 20s. So inevitably more than 6 defensemen will go in the first round. That's just always how it is. But I think if they want to move back and grab a defenseman, or if they like 4 or 5 forwards there and they want someone else, they feel comfortable having someone else slide up and take one of those kids, then there are options for them in terms of moving back this year, because the drop-off in talent, once you get out of that group of 12 that I talked about, there's a couple of other forwards after them by the name of Matt Coronado and Fedor Svechkov, who I suspect will go in fairly quick succession in the early teens. But by the time it gets to the Jets, the true cream of the crop, both on defense and at forward, will already be gone. And then you're into a tier from sort of 20 into the 30s where you're dealing with players who look a lot alike. So I do think that there could be value if you can get 2 picks in the 30s, or a pick in the late 20s and a pick in the 30s with that pick in the teens that the Jets have. That could make it really interesting.
Scott Wheeler of The Athletic is with us, getting ready for tonight's first round of the NHL Draft. Make sure you check out he and Corey Pronman's extensive draft preview and content at The Athletic. I want to ask you about, we just talked about trading down. Let's assume they don't do that, and they're picking at 18 or 17, as it were. 2 defensemen we've talked a lot about. One of them is a Winnipeg kid, Carson Lambos, who had a sort of a star-crossed year last year, went to Finland, came back, was only able to play 2 games with the Winnipeg Ice. He's been thought of as a first-round talent for a number of years. Likely he might be in that mix. And the other guy that, we don't know a lot about, but have seen him in that area, a big right-shot defenseman, which the Jets certainly would like, is from the Alberta Junior League, Brooks Bandits, Corson Kuhlmans. Give us your thoughts on those 2 players, who might be a better fit. Who would you tab between the 2, and what Winnipeg might be thinking if both those players are available?
Yeah, those are those 5th and 6th defensemen that I think are guaranteed to kind of go in the first round. And after that, it opens up and you may only see a couple others. So Carson is obviously a tricky one. He had a medical procedure a couple of months ago. He is now reportedly fully healthy. But after a bit of a weird year where he didn't look great in those first 2 games that he played in with the Winnipeg Ice, and where he looked good but not incredible, not like the maybe top 10, top 15 pick that some thought he would be a year ago in Finland. So the combination of both of those things, his play in Finland and then this medical issue that has been reported, it makes it tricky taking him really high. But I do think that he belongs in that range. And I actually think that Carson would probably be my preference over Corson. Kuhlmans is a little bit of a different case. He's headed off to the University of Wisconsin next year, has shown the ability to play a physical sort of stand-up, game defensively. And then offensively, he's got a big, heavy shot. He likes to play aggressively. I think there's kind of a finesse problem-solving element that's lacking in his game. He's very much a player who just plays on instinct and throws his weight around and throws his shot around and that kind of a thing. Whereas Lambos, I think, is a more refined player, if you will. But two very different players who offer a lot. And I think both of them probably top out as kind of second pairing guys. They're not going to be true stars at the next level. But I think if you can add a second pairing defenseman in the mid to late first round, that's still good value, especially in this draft. So I'm a fan of both, and both are going to be a part of Canada's U20 camp in Calgary in a couple of weeks, sort of a week after the draft, if you will. So next Thursday it begins, I believe. So we'll get to learn a little bit more about Carson Lambos. That is, by that time, I'm planning on touching base with Lambos at the camp to really dig in on the medical issue and try to report it publicly for the first time. But both of them are interesting in their own ways and should and likely are strong considerations for the Jets.
That's awesome, Scott. Listen, this has been a great chat. Before we go, I do want to ask you, I mean, you've been all over this 24/7 for months. Everyone, I'm sure, that is in your line of work has a few players they really like that'll think be great value picks. I mean, is there a player or two that, you know, might not be like top 20 projected that you're going to be paying close attention to where their name is called and think that whoever calls them got a steal?
Yeah, there are two names that come to mind. In fact, exactly two names. The first one is Sasha Pastujov, who played at the National Development Program this year. When Chaz Lucius went down with a knee surgery and ultimately missed almost the entire season, Pastujov was asked to step up and be the number one player offensively for Team USA, and I thought he did that in spades. He's a kid who is equal parts sort of playmaker and scorer. He can do it all offensively. He's committed himself this year in a big way. He committed himself to just the defensive game, to blocking shots, to being a guy that they can trust in other situations. And the big concern with Sasha, and frankly, the only reason that Sasha may not be a first-round pick, is that he's perceived to have average skating. And I just think that the game is not the track meet that we maybe make it up to be anymore, at least. I think out of the last couple of lockouts, it certainly trended that way, but I actually think the game has slowed down in significant ways, especially inside the offensive zone. Once you cross over that blue line, the game really does slow down. So I think Pastujov's a player who, skating aside, is going to be just fine and has all of the other tools of a first-round pick, especially offensively. So he's a kid where if he lingers into the second round, I would be very fond of taking him. And then the second player is Logan Stankoven of the Kamloops Blazers, who is a 5'8", 5'9" goal scorer who I've had described to me as a terror inside the offensive zone and sort of around the hash mark. So Stankoven's a kid who, because of his size, as tends to happen, could linger maybe a little bit longer than he should. But I think if he's available in the second round, he looks a lot like this sort of diminutive goal scorers that we are increasingly seeing breaking into the league these days. So Stankoven and Pastujov, I think, both have a chance to be top 9 NHL forwards and to play on the power play and to be impactful offensively. And when you can get that in the second round, which I think you might be able to for both of those kids, that's a big deal. So those are the two names I would hone in on.
Scott, thanks so much for doing this. Really enjoyed all the coverage leading into the draft. Actually, folks, if you haven't already, it was a great Q&A today of some more interesting stuff that you can see at The Athletic. And fill us in on what you and the rest of the gang at The Athletic are going to have throughout the weekend. I know it's just getting started for you all.
Yeah, for me, it's just analysis at this point. I've done all of the storytelling and profiling these kids and talking to these kids and sort of trying to tell all the important stories before the draft. And now it's just about breaking it all down. So I'll have pick-by-pick analysis by the end of tonight on the first round. And then tomorrow's the monster. It's trying to break down the next 190 picks, right? So that's a monster. I don't know all of those kids. I try to be upfront about the kids that I know and the kids that I don't. But there should be, by the end of tomorrow, analysis of probably about 200 of the 224 players that are selected. So that's the goal for the weekend for me. And then for my colleagues, it's just digging in on the individual players and all of the prospects that their teams take. So really looking forward to sort of reading and following along with that coverage. We've got a pretty darn good team.
I could not agree more. Thanks so much for doing this, Scott. It was great having you on the program, and enjoy the weekend and the picks flying off the board.
Thank you.
Great stuff. There's Scott Wheeler. Give him a follow on Twitter at Scott C. Wheeler and check out his work, along with our pal Murata Tesh over at The Athletic. All right, we'll focus in on the Jets with Ted Wyman in just a second. Before we do that, big shout out to our friends at Not Auto Corp with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk from day one. If you're thinking about a new whip, why not get into the vehicle of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? Pop by and visit them at Waverly and McGillivray. Check them out online. And if you're in a vehicle that may be in a lease or a vehicle that you're looking to sell, talk to them about their very successful consignment program to get maximum value for your current vehicle while moving into the next one for you and your family. Not Auto Corp, Waverly and McGillivray, and online at not.ca. The weekend is here. May I suggest the summer lager from a Little Brown Jug, maybe the Hefeweizen, both available in the summer variety pack. Not sure where they're at this weekend, but always around. They've been at Victoria Beach, farmers markets, gardening centers. Check out the events page if you want to hook up a Little Brown Jug on the weekend. And of course, the tap room is open right now. You can pop in there, have a few cold 1919s on the patio, slice a pizza, grab some beer to go home, as well as all the merch. And I will suggest, now I'm drinking a Diet Pepsi right now, but the 1919 koozie that I have right here, elite for the 16-ounce can. And then if you're, say, having a pop, folds down. That's what we call functionality here, folks. Great koozie. You can pick those up over at Little Brown Jug as well. Enjoy the weekend with the 1919 or the summer variety pack. Big thanks to LBJ for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. And our friends out at Breezy Bend. The course could not be more mint right now. They're still buzzing over Braxton Kuntz winning the amateur this week. And on our Breezy Bend Golf Report, we got a Canadian flag at the top of the leaderboard. Roger Sloan is 10 under par. He's got a one-shot lead on Bo Hogan, Ches Reavie, and Johnny Vegas at the 3M Open just outside Minneapolis. Usually we're talking about Corey Connors and Mac Hughes, but Roger Sloan getting the flag up to the top of the leaderboard. Great performance for him so far. Big thanks to Breezy Bend for their support. If you're thinking about a great golfing home for your family next year, give Corey Johnson a call over there or check them out online at breezybend.ca. All right, let's welcome in our good friend from the Winnipeg Sun, Ted Wyman, to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Ted, what's going on? How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Hustler. Absolutely great to talk to you, and I'm always pleased that you always talk about beer before you introduce me every time.
You know what? It's a Friday afternoon. I think we all have a couple of these on our mind heading in, and also the draft on our mind as well. And I will say, just an absolutely fire look for you today. I'm not sure what that print is right now, but the combination of that shirt with that hat, it's definitely a top 5 look in the history of Winnipeg Sports Talk so far through 99 episodes, Ted.
All right. I'm glad to hear it. I mean, I figured this is the right thing to be wearing when they're holding the draft in the middle of summer. Okay, and none of us are actually in a arena. We're all doing it remotely, so let's dress for summer.
You got it. Now, we just had a little bit of a break. Ted, you know what I think we might ask you to do is if you can just pop out and pop back in. Oh, you should be good now? Okay, fantastic. We just had a little issue there hearing you. Let's get to it tonight. Listen, before we even get to tonight's draft, we haven't spoken in a couple days. What did you think about the way the Jets handled the expansion draft, protecting Logan Stanley, and not losing Dylan DeMello and having Mason Appleton on that, very, very affordable, shall we say, $900,000 a year contract? Go to the Seattle Kraken. Yeah. Ted just popped in. We'll get Ted back in just a second. And of course, we'll focus in on the draft in a minute. But very interested to get Ted's takes on exactly how things went for the Winnipeg Jets when with the expansion draft. Ted, what did you think about protecting Logan Stanley and not losing anybody off the blue line despite that decision? We got Ted there? Well, we'll try and get him back right there. If you have any questions, let's just take a quick look at the chat here while we're doing it. Ted doing his R2D2 impersonation. Yes, indeed. That was interesting. Everything started very well, and then it just sort of went sideways Is Ted going to be the in the Dwayne Johnson Jungle Book movie? That's a great one. Listen, people are not gonna lie. The outfit is extra AF, LMAO. This is just outstanding. Okay, Ted, we've got you back. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you great. You got me?
Fantastic. We got you now. So listen, thoughts on how the Jets played their cards for the expansion draft? Protecting Stanley and not losing a defenseman. There's a lot of concern that Dylan DeMello might be a Kraken.
Yeah, I think it worked out great for the Jets, to be honest, Andrew. I don't mean that with any disrespect towards Mason Appleton, because he's been a good player for the Jets. He's a player that they drafted. He's a player they developed. He's a player that came up and had a pretty good season last year with 25 points, 12 goals, even while playing third-line minutes. And, that's a loss for the Jets, there's no doubt. But this team could not afford to lose one of their defensemen. They need to add defensemen. They need to get better than what they were last year. They couldn't afford to lose DeMello, who was a very steady player. I don't blame them for protecting Stanley. I mean, Seattle was going to take him. They would have taken him for sure. He's 23 years old. He's 6'7". He's 230 pounds. There's not very many guys.
I agree 100%. I mean, if he was exposed, he was gone. And Cheveldayoff said as much yesterday. Even if Seattle didn't want him, the amount of interest they had around the league, seeing if they would be willing to trade Logan Stanley, let them know that was the guy. If they wanted to keep him, they absolutely had to pick. Much different on that contract than Dylan DeMello. And no offense to Dylan DeMello, very important player, but the guy with not a lot of offense at $3 million a year. The value on Stanley and Appleton's contracts for a team that was so value conscious like Seattle, to me, was clearly more, and that's why they did the right thing with the guy they protected.
Yeah, and it was a risk, Huss. There's no doubt about it, because they risked losing Dylan DeMello, and they couldn't really afford to lose him. But that wasn't the player that Seattle wanted. They were very interested in Stanley. They weren't as interested in DeMello. There was maybe some intel that let the Jets know that, and they put Mason Appleton out there as well, and that's who Seattle took. They didn't want to lose a player at all, no doubt. The Jets would have loved to keep everybody that was a key player for them last year, but that's not the way it worked out. And, the Jets, I think, are sad to see Mason Appleton go, but they're wishing him best of luck in Seattle, because he's worked hard to get to this point.
Oh, Appleton is such a great story. And you know what? Credit to the drafting and developing of the Jets. I mean, the way he came through, and he's really has a guy that has earned his opportunity at every level. I'm not sure whether they envisioned him turning into the player that he was when they picked him in the 6th round, but he did it. And, it is a loss. But there's no doubt they could afford to lose a forward much more than they could lose a defenseman. All that being said, Ted, to your point, they still need to add. We know that the target is going to be a defenseman, preferably on the right side. The good news, DeMello's still a Winnipeg Jet. The bad news, Adam Larson signed with Seattle. Jamie Alexiak signed with Seattle. I know a lot of people around here aren't big fans of Ristolainen, but he was apparently a defenseman that the Jets were interested in. He's now been traded. How do you see, what do you make of the Jets situation right now heading into the draft and free agency next week, still needing to add with some of the guys that we talked about off the board?
Well, it's hard to pick that particular name out that you want, right? I mean, that's the thing. And you talked to Chevy yesterday, and that's what he was saying is, we'd love to ideally grab a right shooting defenseman, maybe one that's 6'4", 260 pounds, and can ragdoll two guys at once. That's exactly what he said. And we all know who he's talking about. But that guy's not available, and there's no one else like him in the NHL. So it's just going to be a matter of doing everything he can for Kevin Cheveldayoff to go and find a player that come in here and make a difference. And I think he's willing to make it a left side guy if it has to be, move somebody to the right side. I mean, other teams do it. They play left-handed shots on the right side. The Jets are going to have to figure something out in that area, because they have left-handed shots all over the place. There's hardly any right-handed shots up front either. And not really many in the system. I mean, this is a team that's been very focused. They didn't intentionally do it that way, but that's what they've got. They've got left side guys. They're going to have to play some guys on the wrong side, probably up front. They're going to have to play some guys on the wrong side on the blue line if it comes to that. But I don't think too many fans in Winnipeg are going to be impressed if what they see is the same kind of group as last year on the blue line. I mean, yeah, maybe you're going to add Billy Hainela to that group. Maybe at some point Dylan Samberg, but those guys are less shots as well. And I don't think he's going to want to play a rookie on the right side. So it's really not an easy situation for Shovel. They have to come up with the right player here. And also we've been hearing that there's a more reluctance than ever from free agents to go to Canada right now because of all the things that are going on here in the way that the pandemic is
the rules, Ted. It's the rules.
Well, I'm telling you, though, it does sound like that's the case with players, and that's just really unfortunate. It was already hard for the Jets or any other Canadian team to attract players here. Maybe it's even harder now.
Well, and I guess that would mean it's probably more likely that they acquire somebody through trade, which I think would make this weekend more interesting than maybe it normally is for the Winnipeg Jets. We were speaking earlier, Ted, about the fact that, you know, this team, they only have 4 picks, but they do have their first, second, and third, as well as a fifth. The uncertainty of this draft, I would imagine that even the Jet scouts who've done such a good job probably go into this without as good of a handle. I don't know if anyone has as good of a handle on this draft as they normally would. Do you think it's more likely that the Jets in this situation might be willing to move off that first pick if it means getting somebody to come in and be part of that top 6 immediately?
Well, that's certainly the more important thing for this team right now, but it's not the only thing. And they do need to replenish some of the stockpile they have in terms of prospects. They've, you know, guys have come and gone now in that area. Just even thinking about Mason Appleton alone, but there's other players that's happened with, and it's not as rosy a picture in terms of prospects for the Jets as it once was. So they only had 4 picks last year. They only have 4 picks this year. This has been, they've traded away first round picks in previous years as well. That's sort of the price of success, but you can't afford to always be trading those picks away. So I'm not sure that they move off of it. I mean, I was looking at it yesterday and thinking, well, who are some guys that they've picked in that range before? Well, Kyle Connor was the 17th pick. This is going to be the 17th pick of the draft that the Jets have because Arizona doesn't have a pick. You know, they picked up Billy Heinola at number 20. There's been players that have been good for them that they've picked in that area. Logan Stanley was a number 18. It's not like you can't get somebody good in that area. I mean, Connor's been their best goal scorer for the last 2 years, and he fell that far. So I would not be trading that pick unless it's, you know, just that absolute perfect player that they are looking for, which they've been looking for a long time. I know somebody mentioned in a tweet when I tweeted my story from yesterday saying Chevy's priority is to, you know, do well in the draft, but even more so to improve the blue line immediately. And their response was this from 2020 or 2021?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no doubt it's been a work in progress over the course of the last couple of years. And I think they really thought that, you know, the DeMello's such an interesting player, Ted, in that, you know, he came from Ottawa, he re-signed for the 4 years. He was a player that, you know, we knew was capable of playing in the top 4. And yet for most of the season, he was sort of that safety valve, if you will, with the young, often inexperienced partner on the third pairing. And then yet at the end of the season, we saw him move up with Josh Morrissey and played very well in that Edmonton series. He's a guy that I think you could make an argument that could just go and play with Morrissey. And, you know, then you're figuring out who's playing with Pionk and what that third pairing is like. But I think ideally for the Winnipeg Jets, they'd like to bring in another guy that could play with Morrissey, or at least on a second pairing if they want to move Pionk up there, and have DeMello able to move up and down the lineup as well as play a significant portion of the PK time.
Absolutely. Steady defenseman, analytically strong, does his job out there. And I think he comes across to me as a pretty calming influence amongst that whole group of defensemen and on that team in general. And I like his social conscience, the way he talks on Twitter. He's in tune with what's going on in the world. He seems to be very community-minded. I think everything about, and he wanted to be in Winnipeg. He was going to become an unrestricted free agent. He signed here before he became an unrestricted free agent. Those are important things for the Winnipeg Jets. It must have been very hard for them to expose him in the expansion draft when you consider all those things. But I do think Dylan DeMello is an important player for the Jets, and especially something you mentioned, which is the versatility that he can be a top-line guy if you need him to be, but he also fits right into that role on the third pairing as well and is an excellent penalty killer.
Yeah, you know what it is. I mean, let's face it, they did dodge a bullet. And I mean, I was one of the first people talking about even the possibility of Stanley being protected. I mean, I'm very high on his potential. I think he'll turn into a real solid player. Wanted them to keep him, but I did think that they might have to make some sort of a deal to make sure that Dylan DeMello wasn't picked. So, you know, I think it's worked out about as good as it could be expected or hoped for from a Jets fan perspective up until this point, Ted. But considering still the need on that blue line, if you had to bet right now, is it more likely that we're talking about a new defenseman from the Winnipeg Jets on Monday's show or later on next week after we get into free agency?
If I had to bet, you know, as you already brought up, it's very hard to entice, or I brought it up, I think, it's very hard to entice those free agents to come here. So I would bet that it would have to be more likely through trade. But of course, I already mentioned that I don't love the idea of them trading that first round pick. You know, I think when we did our "You Be the Boss" section in the Sun, Huss, fans said absolutely trade one of your better forwards for a top line defenseman if you can. And I don't know which guy they're talking about in that situation, but you know, if you're talking Kyle Connor, it better be a heck of a good defenseman coming back. You know, so I'm not sure I want to make that move. And then are you going to trade a Ville Heinola or a Dylan Samberg or a Cole Perfetti? Those are all tough to do as well. But that might be what it takes. It might be something along those lines if you want to get that name in here. And honestly, if we're talking through free agency, my guess is it's going to be a lesser name than people are hoping for. You know, maybe somebody more like Derek Forbert, who was here last year and did an excellent job for the Jets, to be totally honest. I think he earned himself another contract somewhere, if not here, but not really the top guy that people have in mind that's going to really make this team better than what it was last year. So it's a really tough bet there. And I know you like the betting. I'm not as much into it as you are, but you know, I think if you're getting the name player or the guy that really fits the bill, it's going to have to be through trade.
Ted, do you think either Stastny or Perreault will be back with the Jets next season?
Yeah, I'd love to make the prediction that it's yes, because I think those guys are both excellent members of the Winnipeg Jets family. They've been there for, you know, Stastny hasn't been there that long, but man, he really makes an impact when he's here, doesn't he? And he was such a big part of the leadership group of the team last year. I think a real calming influence in that group. And Matty Perreault has been here 7 years. He's established in Winnipeg, has a house in Winnipeg. I think he's a guy that would love to be back if he could. But at some point, you know, maybe the Jets have to move on and start playing some of the younger guys more. And I'm thinking Jansen Harkins right now, who didn't get a lot of time with this team last year. But he played well the season before. Everybody thought he was going to be a regular last year. Well, the time is coming for him to be in there a lot more. That being said, the Jets are going to have to sign a few guys because Thompson is a free agent as well. Lewis is a free agent with Stastny and Perreault as well up front. That's 4 guys that were in the starting 12 last year. So at some, you know, I don't think they're bringing up all guys, you know, who were, I think Ristolainen maybe's coming in and Harkins, but there's not that many more guys that I'm sure are ready to come in. Maybe Perfetti, I'm not sure he's quite ready either. But at some point, you're going to have to sign some veteran depth guys at very least. And why wouldn't Matty Perreault be a fit for that?
Yeah. I mean, if the money works, both of those guys are going to need to take some pretty significant haircut from their salaries from last year. I mean, Stastny was at 6'5" and Perreault was over 4. There's not going to be that money for either of those players. And anywhere right now. But it is interesting. And I guess the other guy that I think we should expect to be in that starting lineup, probably centering the fourth line, is David Gustafsson, who by all accounts is ready to go. He was the MVP of the Moose last year, and this sort of did seem the plan for him. But I have to say, I mean, considering the way this season ended and what the coaching staff had to say about Christian Vesalainen and the season or lack thereof that Jansen Harkins had, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in fact Vesalainen that gets the first crack at the Lowry line, assuming that Andrew Kopp is back and they're just basically looking for a replacement for Mason Appleton, who really flourished in that role.
He got a bit of an endorsement from Kevin Cheveldayoff yesterday, immediately saying, you know, when it was brought up to him, you have to go out and sign players to make up for the pieces that you've lost in terms of Appleton not being there. And he immediately said, maybe Vesalainen moves to the right wing and you give him a shot there. I thought Vesalainen looked pretty good in the games that he played. I really did. I thought he plays with some speed. He's got some passing ability. He can move in the corners because he's big. The one thing he hasn't done at all is score. And I mean, at some point, for the amount of games he's into his career now, I think, you'd expect that to have happened, but he hasn't really been given a ton of chances in scoring situations. But that's the one thing we have to wait and see if it's coming from him. And the Jets seem to like him. Maurice likes him. Cheveldayoff mentioned him yesterday. I think that's the guy that's going to get an opportunity.
Ted, I was going to bring this up, and I'm already seeing some people mention it in the chat, so I will. Pierre-Luc Dubois, this team paid a huge price to get Dubois. The season didn't go as well as he certainly would have liked last year. Do you think that would there be any consideration of the Winnipeg Jets if they were looking to get a good, solid young defenseman under team control, under term, potentially moving off of Dubois and replacing that spot in the lineup with a strong player on the blue line?
It's not really something that crossed my mind that much, to be honest, but maybe. The guy did not do much for the Winnipeg Jets last year. I think they'd really like to see what he can do, because obviously he wasn't comfortable all of last season. This is his time when he has to become comfortable. It's time for him to make things happen. And I think that the Jets are going to probably have to think about trading him if the situation is that he is, that he's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of next season, and he's going to be an expensive player, much like Patrick Laine would have been. They traded Patrick Laine a year before he was going to become a restricted free agent again, and maybe you do that with a Pierre-Luc Dubois if you just don't feel like you got the return that you were expecting. I don't think he contributed much to the team last year. And if that's the case, and you think you can get that D-man for him, it's not a terrible idea.
Ted Wyman of the Winnipeg Suns with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Hey, Ted, just before we go, you hearing any buzz around Bomber Camp? Hard to believe we're less than 2 weeks away from hopefully filling that stadium on the 5th of August and welcoming back the CFL and really getting together in a large group as a community for the first time in a year and a half.
Well, lots of buzz out there, no doubt about it. But a lot of it is, when does this training camp end exactly? And that's not just from the players. I think it's the media guys as well. Poor Bob Irving never really cared for training camp in the first place. He's been doing it for 47 years. And here he is on day 14, is standing out in the blistering heat and the smoke and all that different stuff. But, worse for the players, right? Because they're out there every day. It doesn't seem like there's any end in sight for that, and they don't have any preseason games to break it up, right? Like they didn't have usually there's a preseason game, there might be some travel involved in that, there might be a day off, kind of a walkthrough the day before, and then you're playing a game. And in this case, there's really, just practice after practice after practice. It's pretty grueling, I would imagine, but you got to get ready for a season, and it's after 2 years of inactivity. That's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So Mike O'Shea is putting them through the drills, ramping it up every day and getting them going. One guy who has not been going is Andrew Harris, and that's an interesting scenario because obviously he was the superstar of the team last year and in the last few years. He's a great running back, one of the best Canadians of all time, and the CFL's leading rusher 3 years in a row. But, he didn't sound like he was particularly focused on football in the time leading up to the training camp. And then he's injured after day 2 and hasn't been out there for 10 days or more. And apparently there's a little conflict. Even Mike O'Shea admitted there's a little conflict because Harris wants in and O'Shea doesn't want to rush him into anything. But the question I have is if he wasn't totally focused on it and maybe was not in the best of, absolutely tip-top shape when camp started, now he's missed 10 days. How long is it going to take him to get ready to be, that tailback on day 1 against Hamilton?
Nothing like a little drama to spice up training camp, huh? It's boring just doing the same thing every day, Ted. Gives us something to talk about.
True, and then the injury to Darvin Adams, which we're hearing is maybe not long-term, but not, he's not going to be back right away. Rasheed Bailey, who is a starter at the end of last season, has been out, so there's been some newer receivers getting a chance to get in there and make some plays, and I think that's probably a good thing for this Bomber team because they had basically bringing back the exact same offense that they had last year or 2 years ago, I should say, minus Chris Streveler, who was the backup quarterback at the time, and now you're going to, they need to know who else can come in here because there are going to be injuries, and they're not going to get any of these guys into any preseason games to find out what they can do. It's not an easy job to even pick the team, period. But, I think that's one of the reasons why O'Shea is being more cautious with veterans. It's like, if I need to sit these guys out for a few games, I know what they can do. I don't know what these other guys can do, and we're going to find out.
Ted, I have to tell you, you have come into this program when you've been on with us with some of the best background so far. Lots of comments on the blue stove. People are loving that. I have to ask you, though, the Manhattan picture in the background, did you happen to get that when we were in New York? And if you were going to get one of those, why wouldn't you get the Bronx, where we went to a house party unannounced on a Saturday night, one of the most hilarious road nights I've ever been involved in?
I'm going to tell you, you can't see it on there, but that is Manhattan, and the place that we went was Washington Heights, which is actually part of Manhattan, not part of the Bronx. It's actually to the west of the Bronx. So it's on there. I thought about it when I got it, but I did not buy it that day. I don't think I even remember that day.
Good times. Shout out to our friends Joe Easy and the crew if they're watching somewhere on YouTube from New York City. Ted, awesome stuff. I imagine you guys will have plenty of draft coverage and obviously Bombers camp, but specifically the draft in the Winnipeg Sun this weekend.
Oh, yeah, tons of draft coverage. I'll be covering that tonight and all day tomorrow. We'll be all over Bomber camp as we always are. And we're also doing a little Blue Bomber preview section that's going to come out just before the season starts. And one thing I wanted to note, Paul Friesen wrote a series on the Blue Bombers last November. It was just a fantastic series. And partnering with the Blue Bombers, with Wade Miller and Paul Friesen, this is hard to believe, is a tandem here, but they sort of partnered, and the Blue Bombers are putting out a book using Paul's stories and packaging it all together, and it's going to be on sale at the Bomber store, and it's going to be with proceeds going to Winnipeg Harvest. So that's something that you'll be able to pick up around the beginning of the season, and I think it's well worth it.
I'm so glad you brought that up because you are right. I mean, if it's something big and important if Freezer and Wade Miller are coming together to put something out as a product. I agree. The stories were amazing. Bomber fans will definitely want to pick that up going forward. And obviously, the guys in the Sun will have all that information for us going forward. Ted, thanks a lot. A number of comments in. My favorite one from Jeff. I had no idea that Ted Wyman had that kind of drip. What a great way to finish off the program, buddy. Have an awesome weekend. Let's do this again soon. Always love chatting with you, pal.
All right, great to see you, Huss. Have a good one.
There is the man himself, Ted Wyman. You can follow him on Twitter at Ted_Wyman and check out all of his draft coverage at the Sun, obviously in the Sun newspaper, as well as on the Winnipeg Sun website. Great stuff with Ted, and big thanks to Scott Wheeler for joining us as well. Do want to get to the Jets schedule with Michael Remis. We've got some cool bet draft odds for you. And if you're with us on YouTube, don't go anywhere because we will be doing a marble race in a few minutes. We've got a gift cert from Boston Pizza, a couple of cakes from Nick and Nikki DQ. So it should be a great way to finish up the week and get us ready for a big show on Monday, which is show number 100. Before we do that, shout out to our friends at Assiniboia Downs. Told you yesterday, fans are back beginning on Monday. 50% capacity in the main floor and outdoor terrace. You just have to be vaccinated, much like going to double vaccinated with your card or proof of it, much like a Bomber game or Gold Eyes when they're coming back. And we've got another event coming. They're bringing in the food trucks. And of course, the VLTs and the terrace dining room are open right now. But you have to make reservations for the dining room. VLTs right now back open from 9 a.m. to 12:15. Find out more on everything going on at the track at asdowns.com. And a big shout out to our friends at Aikens Lake. Hopefully smoke clear. people getting back up there. Obviously, with the border opening in August, they'll have lots of their American customers coming back. But if you haven't already, check out AkinsLake.com. Find out more on how you and your gang might be able to be a part of an absolutely incredible world-class fishing experience and be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. AkinsLake.com, or hit up our friend Pitt Terren at Akins Lake on Twitter. All right, let's get Remis back in here. Reem, just your comments on Ted. The text from Jeff was perfect, and I agree. I didn't know that Ted Wyman had that kind of drip.
That was one of the best outfits in the history of this show.
All time.
No question.
All time.
Everyone in chat was buzzing for that. Buzzing for the shirt, the hat, the combo, the oven that was teal.
It was elite.
I said before to you, I said, oh, Ted, he always brings good backgrounds. He's at the cabin one time.
He does.
He had the mindset to turn his TV on and put on the fish tank channel. So he knows that he's on YouTube and he's got to look good. So he's welcome back anytime. That was incredible.
Anyways, a great chat with Ted, and he'll have lots of great coverage on the Sun this weekend.
There are people who only listen on the podcast too. So if you want to see what we're talking about, come to our YouTube channel, go to the show. And I put in the description, the time that each person is on. It is a chapter, so you'll be able to find it pretty easily. And that was a great segment.
Unprecedented swag from Ted on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily today. That was great stuff. All right, listen, before we get to the draft lines for tonight, let's get to the schedule, Reem. And, I just quickly touched on this a little earlier. I'm just going to get it up in the list format. Just kind of a bizarre start to the season. The first thing that you notice, I know there's a lot of people that love going down on the California trip. Well, you better be ready to do it early, because the Jets start the season on the road in Anaheim, then go to San Jose and Minnesota before coming home to play Anaheim again, then a home game against Nashville, and then on the road to play Anaheim again. They play 3 games against Anaheim in the first 6 games of the season, and the one extended California trip is games 6 through 8 of the regular season. October 26th at the Ducks, the 28th at the Kings, and October 30th at San Jose, at which point the Jets then come back for their longest homestand of the season, 7 games with Dallas, Chicago, the Islanders, St. Louis, San Jose, LA, and Edmonton coming to town. Sort of a bizarre way for the series, the schedule to start. But considering, Reen, that Anaheim, I think, is supposed to be kind of still a young team, might be a good way for the Jets to start well if they can, pick up 2 points in those games.
Yeah, that is weird. That they would play the road opener against, the season opener against Anaheim, and then play the home opener against Anaheim, and then go again. So I guess getting these West Coast games. Maybe we won't hear any complaints about, West Coast travel later on in the season. They can just get it out of the way early. But that is, I don't know who's making the schedule. I'm sure it's extremely challenging to put together. But there it is, West Coast getting out of the way, the 2 trips. Kind of sucks if you were planning on going in the winter or something. Sometimes. Well,
definitely on the California trip. There are a couple good ones, which we'll get to in a minute. I don't know if anyone in chat wants to check. Is Black Friday in the States November 26th? Is U.S. Thanksgiving November 25th? Because if that's the case,
I'm assuming
the Jets are at Minnesota that day. So that would be a great time to get down to the Twin Cities and check out the Jets on the road. Oh, perfect. And then the Jets playing actually back-to-back. They go to Calgary the next night.
It's funny. That's not the first time the Jets have played Minnesota on Black Friday. I remember Connor Hellebuyck played his first game, and I remember because that Black Friday I bought a PS4. So maybe I will do it again and buy a PS5 this Black Friday. We'll see what the deals are.
If I'm not mistaken, the first ever match. Remember the match with Tiger and Phil?
Mm-hmm.
That was on a Black Friday afternoon, and the Jets were playing the afternoon game that day against the Minnesota Wild as well. So it's probably a great time for Winnipeg to be there. Certainly good for visiting fans to pop in and see the game. Great atmosphere. December, the team is home. They do play their first game at the Kraken Thursday, December 9th, and then Friday, December 10th. That would be a really awesome, quick 2-game roadie to go if you're a fan. Get to Seattle, get back up to Vancouver for the game the next night. Heading into, New Year's Eve, they're in Calgary. And then I think there'll be a lot of people that'll be thinking about this. January, cold as you know what here in the Peg. How about Sunday, January 2nd at Vegas, and then Tuesday, January 4th at Arizona? And then if you really wanted to make it a great trip, you can hit Denver on the way home on Thursday, January the 6th. After that, though, Remis, we get to see the Kraken for the first time on Saturday, January the 8th. And the Jets actually host the Kraken twice. They'll also have the newest NHL team come to Winnipeg on the 13th of April. And I do know when everyone's splitting up their season tickets this year, I think that'll actually be a hot ticket, despite the fact that the team might not be, Stanley Cup caliber. I think a lot of people will be interested to see the newest team, as well as former Jet Mason Appleton.
I want to see those jerseys looking good. But also, Mason Appleton, I think we can expect an Appleton tribute video, including Moose and
100%.
Moose and
100%.
Jets videos. I know Daniel Fink, play-by-play voice of the Moose, said, Appleton has a number of rookie records from Moose that had stood for a while. So he made his mark here, a great player. We did have a video of you and Scott the other day touching on it, and you and Ted and Ken, over the last couple of days. But I think they're gonna miss him. He's a good player, and we wish him all success. And every team had to lose a player, so best of luck. And maybe he'll be on a line with Brandon Tanev, a couple Jets third line alumni together. I could see that being a really good match.
Jets finish off the season at the end of April with 3 games at home. Avalanche on the 24th of April, Philly on the 27th, and finishing it up on a Friday night against the Calgary Flames. But Reem, the one thing that is the most startling, and if you're just kind of going through the games, you might miss it. There are no games between February 1st and February 23rd, and the Winnipeg Jets don't play at home between January 27th against the Canucks and the 1st of March. And of course, because we have a built-in Olympic break, and I know not everything is finalized right now, but as someone that wants more than anything to see best on best in the Olympics, I'm glad that it's in there, because if it wasn't, that would have been a really bad sign for hockey fans.
Yeah, they put it in there. I think it's easier for them to, switch things around and put in a break than, take things out. So we'll wait and see. I think that you can take that as a good sign that they are optimistic that they can work out a deal to send NHL players to the Olympics. And I think everyone wants that. And again, nice that there is a break there. I don't know if we mentioned the All-Star break as well. I think it's like right around when the Pro Bowl is too. So yeah, February.
Wait a second, they're doing an All-Star game and the Olympics?
Yeah, got to get that that revenue, Huss. Come on, got to appease the sponsors. Let me just confirm. Vegas to host NHL 22 All-Star Weekend. I think it's like right before the Pro Bowl too. So if you're in like Vegas around that time, what a great betting weekend that'll be. NHL All-Star game right into the Pro Bowl. That would be that's the most degen if you're betting. And listen, hands up, I bet on the Pro Bowl before. But it'll be slim pickings right in and around there. Of course, that's the weekend as we go into the it's in Vegas, so like that's pretty cool, right?
Better than a lot of other spots. Who doesn't like going to Vegas? And I think there's a lot of people that want to go back. I'd personally rather go to Vegas to see the Jets play than the All-Star game. But I guess the All-Star game still has some attraction.
Yes. I agree. It's some attraction is a good way to put it. So I'm trying to find out the actual date of this thing. And every article, it's like, yeah, Vegas is going to be the 2022 game, but like doesn't have the date. So I'm pretty sure it's around early February.
Well, that'll be interesting. And I would think it was Sean Gagne that said there's a secret second schedule without an Olympic break. I do know they were working on both of those. We've got the one with the Olympics. We'll cross our fingers that we'll get to see Canada go up against the world at the Olympics. And if it doesn't happen, we'll probably have somewhat of an altered schedule for the National Hockey League. And Dom was wondering why it's not going to start right on October 1st. Listen, because the season just ended, I think is a simple answer for that. They do need some off-season time, especially for the teams that went far. So we'll have to wait a little bit longer, but we'll be ready for it when the puck comes back. All right. Do want to get to our Cool Bet lines for tonight. And Remo, if you go to coolbet.com right now, again, folks, if you've never bet there before, you can use the promo code WST, and you'll get a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And Remo, we've got some draft props for tonight. First overall, you got to click on hockey.
Okay.
And then you'll see it'll come up the NHL. There you go. So Owen Power, heavy favorite to be first overall. Matt Beniers, 6-1. Beniers is the guy, as we talk with Scott Wheeler, I think everyone's expecting to go second overall. You can get him at -400. I saw a couple guys that I do respect talking about William Eklund potentially as that pick. 11-1 might be worth a sprinkle. And then you get to the third overall pick, which is quite interesting. Eklund, Dylan Guenther, and Beniers at +650. That is probably where he'd go if he wasn't selected third overall. They've also got over-unders on a number of players as to where they will be selected. You can check all of that, as well as some head-to-heads. So all of that there at coolbet.com. And we won't go through all of them. We can tell you that the Olympics are underway. Opening ceremonies were, I guess, this morning for Canadians. And it's all on. The one thing that I will tell you, check out the triathlon. Our guy, Tyler Mislawchuk, Sunday night, I think around 6 o'clock our time. Check your local listings. But the triathlon will go. The Pride of Winnipeg, Manitoba. I've already got him at 8-1 to get onto the podium. Really looking forward to seeing what our guy Tyler can do, and hopefully can come back with a little bit of hardware back to Canada after the Olympics. So it should be a fun weekend. Lots of things to watch and bet on if you like over at coolbet.com. Remo, I have to admit, it was weird. I watched a little bit of the soccer earlier, and I didn't realize that, I guess the Olympics had started, but the opening ceremonies hadn't started. But this is a weirder feeling about the Olympics than any I've ever had before, just with the no fans, what the athletes are going through. And I know there's a lot of people that have been critical that it's going on. I really do believe these athletes deserve the opportunity to compete for Olympic gold, having missed last year and having it being an event that happens every 4 years. But I don't think there's any doubt this is going to be the weirdest Olympics that we've ever seen.
Yeah, there's no fans there, and I agree. I mean, these people got really screwed last year, but I mean, so did everyone in everything. It was just another thing. So I'm happy to see them compete, but I think the side story is the virus in Japan, the number of athletes getting sick, and having to quarantine. I know there were some athletes on the U.S. women's gymnastics team. I mean, they were alternates, but they got there, tested positive, and then have to stay in a hotel for 10 days and come home. That's not quite the Olympic experience that you dreamed of, but they will be on TV. We'll be following them. I am excited about that. One thing you talk about lack of excitement for, I mean, the NHL schedule come out, and normally, when it's released, you're all excited. I was just happy there is a schedule. I'm happy there is home games. I'm happy that, we'll be able to go to them. So I don't care about any of the games. I was like, great, let's go. I don't care. Tell me when, and I'll be there.
I was the same way.
But going through it is fun. But yeah, I mean, when it came out, like there was no. I was just great. They're releasing a schedule. That is awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, when's the home opener? Who are we playing? And when are they in Vegas? When are they in California?
Yeah.
When are they in Florida? Like, to maybe cherry pick a nice road trip as we hopefully get back to actually traveling. But that Minnesota game on the Black Friday, who knows? That might be a good little tour game, maybe to put something together with some folks. Maybe do a showdown from Tom Reed's or something before the game. That'd be a hell of a lot of fun.
Is there a Vikings game like that weekend or something? When do the Vikings play?
I'll do some intense, in-depth. You can pull that up right now. Check the Vikings schedule. It's the weekend of November, like 27 or 28, whatever.
They're playing in San Francisco on the 28th. So
that always works that way. Tough to get the doubleheader. All right, folks. Once again, we have to thank everybody for the incredible support of the channel. We hit 5,000 YouTube subs earlier this week and had actually our second biggest show of all time, almost at 10,000 views right now. second only to the madness that was the 20K show after Mark Scheifele's suspension, when I think we were trending on YouTube and had people from all over the place coming and discovering the channel for the first time. But we did promise that we wanted to do something for our listeners and especially the YouTube viewers who are with us. And we've got a great crew in here. Now, Reem, I don't know if you're going to get the typing cam ready, but you let me know when you're ready for me to start throwing out some names to you. I will ask folks, if you don't live in Winnipeg or the surrounding area, don't put your name in for this, just because we won't be able to get you a DQ cake from Nick and Nikki DQ or a gift certificate for Boston Pizzas here locally. But we are going to be doing a marble race. So if you would just type in or something like that in the chat.
Just wait. I gotta get it. I gotta get it loaded. So I haven't done this in a while. It's got to download. Like you play a game. You know, it used to be you bought a game and you'd go play it and it would work. You can't. You got to do updates. You got to do all this garbage. So oh shit, this might not. I didn't update it. Oh crap. Can I still play if it's not updated?
You tell me, Remis.
Oh, it's got to take 2. Well, we can spend some time to type in all the names then while it updates. Hopefully hopefully your quality doesn't degrade because it's downloading. But here, should I throw on the typing cam?
Yeah, definitely. Throw the typing cam on. Remis is the master typer. I couldn't not believe how dominant he was. And I think we talked about that typing game that I saw you play on the stream one time, which was quite interesting.
Yeah.
But anyways, you tell me when you're ready and I will start rolling out these names and we'll get going from there. You ready?
1 sec. I was trying to get the typing cam on, but
well, the typing cam might not entirely be necessary.
Okay, it's not okay. Who's saying there? Just list the names like as
Yeah, I'll just start firing you names.
Yeah, list them as fast as you can. Okay.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
You tell me when to go. Brown Eyed Girl, Andrew Haleko, Trini KP, Dallas Pauls, BA Split, Big Guy, Andrew Stows, James Alexander, Mitch WHT, Jet Oil Tom, Jeff Kabilis, Tristan Rivers, Justin Fung, Rain Man, Travis, Alexandra, Mal Paris, Jet Oil Tom. I think I may have said that already. Joe from Winnipeg. Well, Wayne Jones will put you in, but we can't get you your prize in Norway. Frosty, Hadimus, Jeff Johnson, Soul Crushers, Jeff. What else do we got here? Doug Zapp, Rhonda P. Anyone else here? Chris Vermette, Ollie Blocks, Hockey Net, Craig Sapansky, or Craig SZ, just go with that. I may have butchered the name. Yeah. Zach Charnecki, Linden.
Is that Trevor Linden?
I don't know. Jesse Nabs, Alan Hurton, Akash Bally, Timmy Tushu, Jacob Hofer, Greg M, David LaFantasy, Jeff Kabilis in with the super chat. Grill, Pimp, Hat, and Cane for Huss Fund. Thank you, Jeff. You were the best, buddy. Roderick Gordon. Hello, Roderick. Great to have you in the chat today. We're back up here. Jesse Nabs. Okay, Dave, we got him. Connor. Couple more. I don't think we've got in. Sean Gagne. Matt Prieur. Albane. I think we got Albane in already, but he's popped that in a couple times. We get it. Oh, Hockey Net. Well, listen, Hockey Net, you're in. If you win, we'll just go to the next one, but we want you to be in. Cody Karen, definitely Cody. Cody, thanks again for that super chat. iHeart Gaming, and I think that's it. We got Travis. Oh, Michael Cochrane, and Schickster. We got to get Schickster in. Oh, and Todd Fertani. What up, Todd? What's going on for the weekend, pal? And our final one, I'm cutting it off after this, Cody Bueller. All right, Reem, there are There are all of our contestants. How's the game looking right now for the marbles?
Okay, so I'm putting me, you, and Hassan and Nicky DQ.
Yeah, and put Ted Wyman in too with the drip.
Ted Wyman's drip can go in, yeah.
Yeah, Ted. Yeah, that would be a great new YouTube commenter if anyone's looking for one. Ted Wyman's drip. Would love to see that coming
Ted
up next.
texted me after. He said, apologize for his internet. He said his provider has been acting up in the area. So,
provider. He was great. We just had that one little bit where he sounded like R2-D2. It was all good.
Yeah. I haven't texted him back because we've been doing this, but yeah, I thought it was fine. We just had a hiccup at this.
In fact, Wayne's saying, "I will donate my cake to my family in Winnipeg." Oh, okay, well, yeah. If you have family in Winnipeg that can pick it up, no problem. We'll do that. You're with us every day, so we certainly. Well, Rob Mahoney, you didn't get in. Can we still get Rob?
Yeah,
Rob's
I can get
here.
Rob in.
We must have missed
someone
Rob.
else said put in no return.
Okay. No returns. Well,
any other joke ones that we can put in?
Nobody gets no return. All right, let's fire this sucker up. How's it looking? Does the update look like it's worked properly?
Yeah. Let me. I should have tested this yesterday because I honestly forget how to race. No, just kidding. Let me add the names in here. I can show you guys. I'll bring it up right now. I haven't fired this up for a bit. This is good though. Good practice here. Where's my game? I will turn it on. One window. Oh, there we go. There we are.
All right.
And I got the new RAM for my computer, so it's definitely working better.
Excellent. All right. Okay, so we'll do we're going to do a $50 gift or a $225, basically a $50 gift cert for Boston Pizza as our first prize, and second and third are going to get cakes from our friends at Nick and Nicky DQ. Reem, we all set up? Have you picked a good course?
Yeah, should we do the Delta? I feel like that's a topical one to do. That's the name of the course.
Sure. Let's do the Delta.
I don't know why. I'm not sure why. I just thought it was a good one to do. The Delta.
Ooh, rolling in a winter wonderland. Well, we can save that for the winter.
Oh, this is the course? This is just a track. I'm not doing this. This one's lame. Well, I already started. Sure? I already started it.
No,
so.
You know what? It is what it is. Here we go. We're gonna see it. Well, we got a lot of marbles in there.
There's
expert typing by Remis, by the way. It is outstanding.
I think they're all in there. There's there's over 50.
Thanks again to Boston Pizza and Nick and Nicky DQ for so first prize $50 gift card, second prize and third prize a DQ cake from our friends at Nick and Nicky DQ. All right. Geez, it's this is quite the, it looks way better on the YouTube than it does on my screen. I guess I'm going to be watching that maybe on a little bit of a delay.
Oh, really? Doesn't look good on your screen?
But I like this one. This is, this is like a racetrack. Jacob Hofer in the lead right now, it seems.
I don't know why it says 1 on top of every single one, but that's fine.
They're doing, I guess, this is like they do laps. It is literally like an IndyCar, the Indy 500 of marbles right now. And again, if you are listening to the podcast, this may sound a little ridiculous. That's why we wait till the end. We don't blame if you're not. But if you are still with us, rate and review on Apple Pods. Certainly a big help. All right. Big guys up there. Alexandra, Michael Cochran's in the mix. Linden is in around the top. Doug Zapp. We've got Michael Cochran now up. Wayne Jones is in the mix. Wouldn't that be something if we had a Norwegian winner of the grand finale for us here for the program? We're at just over 1 minute right now. Yeah. Doug Zapp, Linden, Michael Cochran, big guy, all there. The interesting one about this one, Reem, is that we don't have, the eliminations. Everyone is still in right now, but we'll see how everyone handles this turn. But right now, Doug Zapp is looking good. Linden is there. Joe from Winnipeg is going very, very well. But there's no breakaway right now. Doug Zapp's got it very, very close. Do we know how close we are? What lap we're on here?
That was it. Linden took it down.
Linden! All right, let's see. Our final results. Lyndon is the winner. Doug Zapp and H.A. Dimes are our winners. So, Lyndon, congratulations. We got a $50 GC for you. And Doug Zapp and Dimes. Well done, everybody. And congratulations. Jeff Gibbs, my marble is a Prius. So, Lyndon, because we can't hit you up on YouTube, what you're going to need to do is either hit us up on Twitter or Instagram or email us at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Just get us your deets. And that goes the same for you, Doug Zapp, and you, H.A. Dimes. And we'll get your information. For Doug and Dimes, we'll get you hooked up with Nick and Nikki, and they'll let you know how you can pick it up. And for you, Lyndon, we'll let you know how you can, or I'll get you this $50 couple GCs for two $25 GCs, as it were, adds up to 50 for your favorite Boston pizza. And when you're there, I would suggest the honey dill fried chicken sandwich and maybe on the patio a Bulldog margarita fishbowl.
Oh, it might have doubled some of them because I did this wrong. But yeah, it's fine. Some people, I think I had everyone in twice.
Oh, well. It was a wild. It did look like a very, very wild
very
and woolly track. Kind of an interesting track. We probably won't do the race again like that. But
I'll
anyways,
never doing the Delta again.
It's all random. We just threw it down. We put everyone in. We let it go, and we've got 3 winners. So again, thanks to everyone. 5,000 was a big goal of ours. We got it way faster than we could have expected, and it's been an amazing week so far. I think we've added another 60 or 70 just over the last couple days. So we've had great turnouts this week, despite it being in July. We know you Jet fans are fired up for free agency and, of course, for this draft tonight. Got into the schedule. The expansion draft show was awesome. And Remis, next week is going to be wild because we'll have so much to talk about on Monday. And we may have to do another marble race on Monday because it is show 100, which is a nice little milestone for us. And, so many of you, I do have to just personally thank you for both of us. We see the same people in making us a part of your day every day on YouTube. And we hear it all you from listening to the podcast. It's our pleasure to do this, and we really appreciate all the support. Don't forget, if you haven't checked out the store already, we've got these t-shirts. We've got some sweet hoodies, zip up and pullovers. Oh, Remis has got a t-shirt on. That's the...
I got the long sleeve.
Not the long sleeve hooked up. So it's all there, when it's great to to get that stuff out. But it's even better to have people repping WST in and around Winnipeg. People get a lot of questions, and people, I'll check it out. And it's been amazing how that's turned into some more people joining us every day. I would stick around and talk more draft, Reem, but I'm going to get my mouth drilled in. Shout out to the girl that froze my mouth this morning. Perfect timing. It's just coming out right now in time for me to go to get a damn root canal. And I will say, it's not a great way to start the weekend, but my weekend will be much better after it. And it was heartwarming to see the super chats and the donations for the Hustler Gold Teeth Grill Fund. I'm emotional just thinking about that. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, it was an incredible number of... I missed one there at the end. So I know I missed a lot of people chatting at the end of the show, but it's been great having everyone here. This has been an awesome week.
How's it ever?
So much fun. So I think next week, free agency will be equally as great, and then we'll have the Bomber season. So very, very exciting stuff. And if you are in here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow all of our social medias. We could use a couple more on Facebook. Pretty active on there. Instagram, Twitter is where most of our followers are. But this is pretty exciting. So thank you everyone for hanging out with us. This is so much fun this weekend. We are looking forward to the draft tonight. We will have a new member of the Winnipeg Jets organization. Then tomorrow is the Saturday where many more picks.
Don't rule out a trade tonight, folks. You know what? Like we talked with Ted. I don't know how much is going to be there for the Jets in free agency, and especially with the guys that have already gone to teams. The Ristolainen trade today, Larson and Alexiak. I mean, that might have changed their thoughts on what's there in free agency, and maybe that means that potentially a deal happens, and no doubt in and around the draft that could certainly happen. Although it doesn't need to happen today.
Yeah, one thing I've seen a lot of in chat, people are like, Chevy, do something. Come on, what are you doing? I mean, You want him to give a player and 2 picks for Rasmus Ristolainen? Like, free agency isn't till next week, so they couldn't have, Larson and Alexiak signed those guys. Like, they didn't have a chance to even get in there. So let's pump the brakes. Let's wait and see. Let's evaluate a week from today, and then you can be like, "Come on, Chevy, you didn't do anything." Then you can get on him. Let's wait until after the draft.
Well, I mean, listen, I think that this weekend will be very interesting, and then of course next week. And yeah, you're right. In a week or two, but certainly in a week after the beginning of free agency is done, I think we'll have a pretty good idea where things stand and where the to-do list is for Cheveldav as he tries to improve the Winnipeg Jets roster going into next season. Once again, big thanks to Nick and Nikki DQ, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Not Autocorp, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend Country Club, Assiniboia Downs, Aikens Lake, Wilderness Lodge, Cool Bet Canada, and all of you. Christopher Met, thank you very much for the super chat, man. This has been awesome today. We really appreciate the support. Folks, I got to run. I'm in a dentist chair in 11 minutes. Remis, have an awesome week. Have an awesome weekend. You can check in with me on Twitter later on. I'm sure it'll be good. I'll be tweeting, watching the draft.
You'll have to post, because everyone donated to your dentist fund, you're going to have to post a selfie of you in the chair or something.
With the grill, getting it all done.
I think you're going to have to let people in.
And you know what? Check our Sports Talk Winnipeg Twitter account and Instagram account as well. If anything big happens on the Jets, we'll certainly have something up there. And you know what? Give the IC guys a bit of love tonight. They're going to be on live during the draft, so all you YouTubers check in on Illegal Curve a little bit later on. All right, for Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Thank you for the support. It's been an amazing week. Cannot wait to get back at it next Monday. Enjoy the draft this weekend, and we'll see you Monday afternoon right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Late.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.